You've probably heard of the BRICS countries, but did you know that they weren't always a formal group? Simply put, economic experts identified them to draw attention to investment opportunities. Jim O'Neill, a Goldman Sachs economist, first used the acronym BRIC, B-R-I-C, in 2001 to refer to the four rapidly developing nations that would control together the world economy by 2050. You can now guess their names: Brazil, Russia, India, and China. In 2010, South Africa also joined the gang since it met the emerging economy criteria. But no matter how strong they get, you wouldn't put them in the same league as energy-producing giants sitting on mountains or petrodollars. But the unthinkable has happened as the most powerful oil economy, Saudi Arabia, is vying to get a place in BRICS. In this video, I'll walk you through the BRICS geopolitics, how it has lured the most unlikely contender, Saudi Arabia, and most importantly, why this has raised alarms in the US. One of the world's most powerful nations, Saudi Arabia, has also historically been the United States of America's greatest ally. However, the same United States and Saudi Arabia are currently in conflict. Precisely how? As a result of Saudi Arabia's 2 million gallon reduction in oil output. Oil costs have increased. Consequently, American inflation has increased. Outraged, President Joe Biden warned Saudi Arabia of dire repercussions and even suggested passing a specific law that would jeopardize Saudi Arabia's security. Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman responded with a bold move that alarmed the United States of America. The oil-rich nation has asked to join China, India, and Russia in the BRICS coalition. Putin has declared the rise of a new global currency dubbed the BRICS currency, which will only serve to worsen America's wounds. For China, Russia, and India, this is extremely beneficial. What does the BRICS partnership mean, then? Why are South American giants like Argentina and Middle Eastern superpowers like Iran and Saudi Arabia so eager to join it? The biggest developing countries in the world that are able to compete on a global scale have come together to create this group, like the industrialized countries of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States that make up the G7. Together, the 5 BRICS nations make up 41% of the global population, and they have a total GDP of more than 24.4 trillion US dollars. They also have a strong military presence and growing political clout on a worldwide scale. Together, they align the interests of the developing world with those of the developed nations. BRIC nations thus take on the role of the representative of the third world every time the West sets policies that are favorable to itself. Carbon tax, for instance. Developed countries have been taking stringent actions against heavy industries that are emitting carbon and damaging the environment. To evade stringent environmental policies, these companies may shift base to China and India, where environmental laws are relaxed. But the US and EU won't let them operate with impunity and penalize their products in the international market with the carbon tax. Not only that, the developed world puts pressure on major funding agencies like the Asia Development Bank and the World Bank to stop funding the defiant companies. The third world loses the economic fuel it so desperately needs to grow. This is where the BRIC comes into the picture. They have created an alternative to Asian Development Bank in the form of the New Development Bank. Low-interest loans will be given out as a result to aid in the growth of each nation. This may seem like an anti-environment activity by the third world, but one must consider the past of the developed world, which is now switching to clean energy and riding a high horse. The first world countries have emitted so much carbon during their development phase that they are primarily to blame for climate change. It's the developing countries' turn now to grow. Hence, the New Development Bank is made, which cannot be bullied by the West. Apart from growing financial muscles, there is also military cooperation among the BRICS alliance. Having understood the fundamentals of this grouping, let's now find out why Saudi Arabia wants to join the BRICS alliance. This story started as soon as the Russia-Ukraine war started. At first, the price of oil skyrocketed, but then it slowly started dropping and finally touched the pre-war levels. This is where the Saudi and the OPEC countries were scared that the recession will bring down the price of oil even further. In order to increase their revenue, they decided to cut their production by 2 million barrels a day. As a result, the price of oil shot up from $91 to $94 a barrel. While this move was extremely beneficial for OPEC, it created havoc in the West. President Biden initially tried to salvage the situation by talking with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, but it didn't help much. As a last resort, he is mulling to take an action that will violate the petrodollar agreement. And what is that? Well, Franklin Roosevelt and the Saudi king at the time negotiated the terms of this deal between the United States and Saudi Arabia decades ago. As part of the agreement, Saudi Arabia would trade oil in dollars and receive military assistance from the United States. This arrangement is sacred because both nations have faithfully carried out their commitments under it for decades. However, Biden has recently vowed to break the petrodollar agreement by passing a law to halt the sale of weapons to Saudi Arabia. And it hasn't just stopped there. The Biden government wants to lift the economic sanctions on Iran, which is Saudi's enemy in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia has decided to pay back the same coin by deciding to attack the dollar. The Gulf Kingdom has already begun to negotiate military contracts with both China and Russia over the past 3 years. This is reducing its heavy dependence on the US. China, Brazil, and India are the biggest consumers of oil in the world. So, Saudi, by joining BRICS, will secure the world's biggest oil market for itself. Now, what are the implications of Saudi's actions on global geopolitics? Well, as we just saw, the biggest country to lose will be the United States. The US bank interest will shoot up and its economy will go into a tailspin. How exactly? All because of the collapse of the petrodollar agreement. You see, this agreement has made the US dollar as the singular global currency. A majority of the oil can be bought only in dollars, and all nations maintain their dollar reserves with American banks. Additionally, they put their extra cash into the US industry. This system pumps an estimated $7.5 trillion into the US economy. Many countries also invest in US Treasury bonds, keeping the US banks flush with dollars. This helps the US banks lend to American businesses at very low interest rates, keeping the business booming. Now, if Saudi Arabia joins BRICS, the latter could sign a bilateral currency swap agreement with which the BRICS countries do not have to buy oil in dollars. So then, if China deals with the UK or India, only yen, UK pound, and Indian rupee will be traded, while the dollar will be out of the picture. China has already developed a prototype for a different foreign payment network dubbed the M-Bridge, which will only make things worse for the US. SWIFT, the dominant system for international payments and transactions, will face a significant challenge from the disruptive system, which will revolutionize global commerce. The digital currency used by the Chinese version is now accepted by 20 banks in Hong Kong, China, Thailand, and the UAE. If it succeeds and overtakes the rest of the globe, SWIFT will face danger to its existence. America is frantically trying to introduce its own digital currency because of this development. With this, we wrap up this episode of Informed Investing. Do you think Saudi Arabia will eventually shift its long-standing allegiance to the US and start favoring India and China? Will America watch this quietly or counter this with some drastic steps? Drop a line in the comments and let me know. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon if you enjoyed the video, so that you'll be notified when I upload a new one.